Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today is no exception. I have the opportunity to interview my dear friend, Bill Meury. Thank you for coming, Bill.
Grant. Good to be here.
Now, before we get going with the interview, I want to set the stage. We're here at AIS 2022 in San Diego, California. This is clearly not the studio for Technology of Beauty, so we're here because I had to go looking for Mr. Meury. I've invited him to the studio multiple times, but he's so busy, he's so huge. I finally tracked him down here at AIS, and he's going to be speaking a little bit later. Thank you very much, Bill, for joining us.
Of course, you need to create a New York City studio so that you have one on the East Coast and the West Coast.
You know, you're right. I need to do that. I'll take that as a challenge, and that's what we'll do. Max, Adam, we're going to open up a studio in New York. Do you hear that, guys? Okay. So I first got to know you when you were running Allergan.
Yes,
you know,
that's right.
You and Brent had come over from Activist.
That's right.
Purchased Allergan.
That's
I think it was about 2015.
Yep.
And you ran it for 5 years. And
Yes.
I had the privilege to work with you, alongside you, and we had a blast.
Oh, it was a great time.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Then you sold it to you sold it to AbbVie.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen you for a while. I want to know, where have you been?
Sure.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And where are you going? So, in that order.
Right now, I'm at a New York City-based private equity firm called Hildred Capital. We make investments in healthcare companies, products, and services. We have about 17 portfolio companies, and I work there as a partner.
Okay.
We have a couple portfolio companies that are doing work in the skincare and aesthetic space. Brent asked me to be on this panel at the end of the day, and
Right.
I had spoken to you. And so that's what I'm doing for right now. I'm watching very carefully how well the aesthetics team is doing inside of AbbVie, and it looks like they're posting great results.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking earlier today about the effect that COVID had initially on the economy, the aesthetics economy, and we saw this downturn because no one could get into the office.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, as soon as people started coming in, it just skyrocketed. Tell us a little bit about your thinking along those lines.
Yeah, look, there are very few industries or sectors that are, quote, recession-proof. But I think aesthetics is about as close as it gets. And, you know, whether you go back to the Great Depression or the recession or the pandemic, it's proven to be an incredibly resilient business. And I think the credit goes to the providers. And while the manufacturers have great products, ultimately the success of aesthetics is based on the specialists who are administering the procedures. And I know in 2020, I think March and April were the worst months. Mm-hmm. And by the time we hit the summer of 2020, demand for aesthetic procedures started to climb. And it looked like, if you look at the curve, it was literally a V-shaped revenue curve. And I think there were a lot of people that questioned whether it would happen. But time and time again, you see just how resilient this business is. And now it's probably growing at a faster rate than it's grown at in several years. And based on my estimation, the market will probably double between now and 2025, 2026. I mean, it's growing at a 10 to 15% clip. Mm-hmm. I don't see any reason why that would change.
So did you hear that? He predicted up to a 15% growth per year. That would be a doubling time in 5 years for those of you. And I agree with you. And a lot of people were worried that it was just a backlog of cases or storage of cases, and it was pent-up demand, and then it would peter out. Yeah. But that's not what we saw, right?
No, not at all. I mean, look, attitudes and perceptions towards aesthetics have continued to evolve in the most positive way possible. Mm-hmm. The products, the procedures, the technologies that are available today are better than before. And then the outcomes that plastic surgeons and other aesthetic specialists are producing are really, really high. Yeah. And it's driving demand. I mean, you and I were talking earlier this morning. Based on certain surveys, there's a procedure, an aesthetics procedure done every second in the United States. And there are 31 million seconds and
we were estimating at least 30 million, up to 50 million perhaps, procedures per year.
That's exactly right. And if you look at, I think, you know, Allergan has published this information as well as all the plastic surgeon societies, the number of people who are receiving aesthetic procedures is probably, broadly speaking, between 5 and maybe 10 million, but the number of people considering is, broadly speaking, between 50 and 100 million. Mm-hmm. And so there's a long way to go here, and the prospects for the industry are exceptional, and providers are better trained than ever before.
Indeed.
And so, it's as an investor right now, not an operator, it's like having beachfront real estate.
It never goes down.
It shouldn't go down in value. And I think it's, listen, if you're part of the aesthetics industry, whether you're a provider or you're a manufacturer, you're in a really good spot.
I would agree. And it's also the average age is coming down. Do you want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a millennial movement underway back in 2014. I think if I remember the data correctly, there were less than 300,000 millennials receiving an aesthetic procedure back then. Today, that number is about 1.5 million. And then, of course, if you layer in Gen Y and Gen Z, the future of the industry looks exceptional. People are unapologetic about getting aesthetic procedures. It's no different than diet and exercise.
Yep.
And minimally invasive procedures have become a gateway for aesthetics consumers, and then they graduate to more serious procedures if they want to. And again, at the end of the day, I think that the success and the health of this industry is in the hands of the specialists doing the procedures. And in my experience, satisfaction rates when someone goes to an aesthetic practice that is professionally run are extraordinarily high.
Yes.
And that's why everyone is benefiting from the growth in aesthetics.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great getting caught up with you
Yeah,
a little
you too.
bit. I look forward to spending more time with you when you're back out in LA.
Absolutely.
Or when I build my new studio in New York.
Of course.
Thank you
Great.
very much for coming.
Thanks, Grant.
You take care, Bill.
Take care.